It's 7 o'clock. Our clock's about a minute off. But call the August the 2nd meeting of the Woodland Park City Council to order. And Cindy, if we'll take roll.
Thank you. Mayor Turley.
Present.
Gary Brevetto.
Here.
Robert Carlson.
Here.
Terry Harrison.
Here.
Carol Harvey. Here. John Schaefer. Here. Eric Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. If you'll join me, stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, Cindy, I think we have a couple of appointments tonight to consider. One to the Woodland Park Beautiful Committee, and then another one to the Woodland Park Historical Preservation Committee.
Yes, sir. Let's begin with the appointment to the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful Committee. There are currently some vacancies on this committee, and we have been advertising for these vacancies pursuant to your policy. And we received one application for this committee on July the 3rd of this year. And Jan Kummer is interested in helping with this committee. We've attached a copy of her application for your review. Jan is here this evening. And we will continue to fill the remaining vacancies on this committee. These terms actually don't have a term. The committee is comprised of people who do projects throughout the year to enhance the beauty and keep our community clean and take a look at different ideas for community beautification. So Jan is here if you have any questions for her.
Anyone have any questions for Jan?
No, but I'd welcome any comment that Jan would have to make for the council.
Welcome, Jan. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jan Kummer, 2320 Rampart Range Road, Woodland Park, Colorado. It's not on.
Suzanne, are these working? Yeah, okay. Okay. Sounds good. We're good.
Okay. I made application to, when I discovered that there were vacancies on this board, I am involved in some beautification projects that are going on in the town right now, and I'm very interested in this, and so I thought this would be a good place to work and get other people involved in some of these things.
Any questions or comments for Jan?
She got up there. I got to pick on her.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Terry.
Would you stand up?
Oh, Terry.
No, I've known Jan a long, long time, and Jan's one of those folks that she's a business owner inside Woodland Park. She owns Curves, but she actually lives on the other side of the county line, not too far out of the city, but she does live in just up Rampart Range Road, and so and I'm really happy that and grateful that you'd step up. It's a fun group.
It is.
Yeah, if you get to show up, some of us don't, but if you do get to show up, it is a fun group, and I know Scott has a little presentation that he's going to hand you because it's sitting beside him.
I heard.
And so next time I come into Curves, I hope to see that. And I'd like to comment you on the condition that Curves is, because you guys take very, very good care of that, and it's well maintained. So thank you very much.
Thank you. But Vintage Vines is also downstairs.
Pardon?
There's another shop downstairs
Yeah,
because I don't have enough to do.
Yeah.
And that shop is very heavily involved also in the goings on, that the flowers that we've just done in the town, and the garden that's in the back.
And you still sit on DDA?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I just want to also endorse Terry's endorsement. I've only known Jan for a few months, but I'd already decided she was the poster child for the Energizer Bunny. And now I've discovered that you are also a criminal investigator. Wow, a whole new whole new aspect of your personality. But I certainly would welcome Jan on this particular committee. I just can't wait to see what other hours she finds in the 24-hour day. But thank you very much for applying.
Thanks, Carol.
Yes, Bob?
And I also thank you very much for your willingness to serve, and your businesses always are like a centerpiece of the city as far as being beautiful.
Thank you.
And you do owe me a draft ordinance for skateboarding.
I have that.
Oh, you do?
I didn't bring it with me tonight, but I do have I have it, and I have a number of copies for everybody else.
Okay.
We just had 2 incidences with people, skateboarders running into the door, somebody going outside, and you will be getting that within the week.
Okay.
And then I'll just make a couple of comments. Got to know Jan pretty well over the last couple of years, and was that your granddaughter that really liked me at the circus?
Yes.
I got a lot of hugs at the circus.
She
thought
could
that
not.
was she thought that was pretty cool, hugging the mayor. But anyway, that was nice. And then, really, really do appreciate the contributions that you make to the community and serving on the DDA board and the work that you do with the Christmas parade and everything. So
Thank you.
really appreciate that. And if no one has anything else, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Jan as a member.
Second?
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Cindy?
Thank you. Brevetto,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Harrison,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Turley.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Welcome.
And Jan, if you'll stay there at the podium, hold of office, and then have Scott make his presentation. Turn you this way. Okay. Face me.
As long as we don't get mad at
Raise your right hand.
taxes.
I, Jan Cummer,
I, Jan Thomas,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United
board.
States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Woodland Park,
of the city of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office in Keep Woodland Park Beautiful
the duties of the office in Cape Woodland Park Beautiful,
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's get a signature here. Okay, Scott?
Oh, okay.
I'd like to welcome Jan to the committee. Our numbers had been dwindling a little bit over the last year or so, and we're starting to slowly build them back up. So it's good to see people coming out and joining the fun, like Terry says. I'd like to try to have a good time. So our first meeting is actually Monday, so 6:30. So hopefully you don't have anything better to do. But I wanted to give you your ceremonial trash picker upper stick.
It's
Here's
articulate.
something to put the trash in.
I hope my job is going to entail more than this.
Not much, but
Thank
isn't
you.
that good enough?
To start with, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Welcome, Jan.
Okay, and our second appointment this evening is concerning the Historical Preservation Committee. The makeup of this committee does require that a member of the Ute Pass Historical Society representing the Historical Society serve on this committee. Earlier this year, Jerry Howry, who was filling that position, submitted his resignation, I think sometime in March, Sally? And the vacated term for this is January 1st, 2013 for expiration. Larry Black is that person who is a member of the Ute Pass Historical Society. As a matter of fact, a 30-year member of the Ute Pass Historical Society. He has submitted an application, a copy of which is in your packet. Larry is here to answer any questions you may have. He, if appointed, would serve through the end of this year and then could be reappointed following following the first of the year. What questions may I answer?
Larry, would you like to come forward and say a few words? Of course he would. Very good.
What do you want to know? I've been in Woodland Park 46 years. That's older than most people in here, right?
No.
No? 46 years. Someone said, what do you think about all the changes? Well, it's changed twice over since I've been here. And now I say to the people, what do you think about it? I said, when I arrived, it was a 4-horse town. There was 4 horses at the post office hitched up to the rail. So it's changed immensely in the 46 years. I have been a member of the Youth Past Historical Society for decades. Originally, you had to be appointed, and I've now become a lifetime member. The big project of the Youth Past Historical Society was the Woodland Park book. Everyone has a copy. If you don't, I'm PRing the copy. It's one of the best in print on a community. If you don't have one, we have them in the gift shop or they're at Walgreens. Currently, the Youth Past Historical Society is working on a book from the history of Cascade all the way to Divide with pictures. Hopefully it'll come out in 2013. What do I do in my spare time? I tutor with community partnerships. I've graduated 7 ADD students, autistic or ADHD, and now they are productive citizens. So that keeps me out of trouble. Any questions?
Council?
I have one question from your application, and I'm more curious than anything, is what made you think that Swiss Itinerates had created some of the designs on the cabins in town?
Because I lived in a home that did have the slab, and when we bought the home, the word was from the real estate agent that itinerant Swiss carpenters were through the area in the 20s and 30s and did all this fancy work on these cabins. Now, I have no definite proof, and I'm trying to make this one of those quests. But we're actually losing a lot of these cabins with, residing or being torn down. So that little heritage is being lost for sure, the slab sidings. But a lot of them had a lot of fancy work, but I have no documentation about, and that's the problem with a lot of the research. Nothing like that is in writing, but it supposedly did happen via the word of the real estate agent.
Well, I certainly hope you find out one way or the other. Thank you.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I guess I'm the advisor to the Historic Preservation Committee. I had a fortunate privilege of having Larry at some of the meetings, and if there's any one person I could learn a heck of a lot about Woodland Park from, it's Larry. So I look forward to going to some more meetings and learning some more. Maybe you'll take me around town someday. I don't know.
I appreciate that because I've interviewed, I think I've done about 25 oral interviews. They're all up in the data bank. They're all on tape, and they're very interesting. And the classic example would be, what do you do for your spare time? You ride your horse all the way from Hartselle to Woodland Park in a day, or if you don't have anything to do on the weekend, you go visit relatives in Old Colorado City. How do you get there? You walk all the way down. So, they're all interesting. I appreciate the nomination by the Youth Past Historical Society, because I appreciate the committee here because I'm traveling every month, so I don't attend all meetings faithfully all the time, but that's neither here nor there.
Eric?
Yeah, I know the historical group. They do great work, and you obviously, I was hoping that somebody'd have 35 years of experience, but I guess we'll have to deal with 30. I'm just kidding. Anyway, obviously you're going to bring a great deal of experience, history, to the group, and thank you for serving.
Thank you much.
And I'll just make a comment about what I think is the importance of, so many times we lose touch with our history and some of the historical values and how we got to where we are, and capturing that is really important. I think especially in an area like Woodland Park, I mean, we've changed so much from where we were 100 years ago. And it's, so really appreciate what you're doing there. I do have the book, and I like it, so.
Particularly check out the rodeo pictures, 1920s in the book. You don't think of Woodland Park having that kind of happening. Then I'll give you your IQ question. How many rodeo grounds were in Woodland Park at one time?
Safeway.
How many? Number. We need a number. 1, 2, 3, or 4. We had.
I missed the question.
How many rodeo grounds?
4.
4 rodeo grounds. 4.
That's
One
what
in
I
the
was gonna say.
backyard right here, but it wasn't enclosed. They would just bring the vehicles and make the circle and have a rodeo. And one out of Kelly's Road, down at Paradise, and I'm not going to give the other. Bergstrom.
That was
4
before me,
rodeo
Cindy.
grounds. Thank you much.
Thank you.
If no other questions, consider a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay.
I'll second.
Second.
But I would like to tell Larry, not only thank you for doing what you do here, but you taught for 27 years, and that's pretty special. So thank you very much.
All in Woodland Park. I've changed buildings every so many years.
Greatly appreciated. Cindy?
Thank you. Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Turley?
Yes.
Rovetto?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. You'll stick around there, Larry? Raise your right hand. I, Larry Black,
First time I came.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I don't remember
and the state of Colorado,
the first two.
the charter and ordinances
And I strike
of the city of Woodland Park, and faithfully perform the duties of member of the Historical Preservation Committee
So it was previous. It was prior to 68.
upon which I'm about to enter.
First year I came here.
Congratulations. Let's get a signature right here. Sally, do you have a notebook or anything for Larry?
I have.
Biggest event.
All right.
I have. She took care of me.
Very
Probably
good.
wrote the notebook.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much, Larry. And Cindy, I don't see any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. Cindy?
Let's see, 3 items for your consideration tonight. The minutes of the last meeting on July the 19th, and then 2 applications for renewal of existing liquor licenses. The first one is Beer Works for their brew pub license, and the second is High Country Restaurant Holdings, which is Denny's, for their hotel restaurant liquor license. What questions may I answer?
I just was curious why Denny's had a hotel liquor license. What's the difference in a?
The
Restaurant.
difference with the hotel restaurant liquor license, it's full service, so it's all alcohols, and it has a 25% revenue requirement from food service.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Turley?
Yes.
Rovetto?
Aye.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
And we have no unfinished business, no ordinance on initial posting, but we do have several public hearings tonight. And the first one of those is to consider an application from Casey's Doghouse, Inc., doing business as Casey's Doghouse Grill, located at 108 East Midland Avenue, for a new beer and wine liquor license. Cindy?
Thank you. First, it is my pleasure tonight to introduce the applicants. You don't have to get up just yet. Don and Christine Hagan in the front row there. Casey's Doghouse is located just this side of Joni's Deli and is currently in the final stages of internal remodeling. The application details are listed for you. This is the only liquor license that the Hagens will have an interest in, and they do have possession through a lease document through January of 2016. The factual findings are property posting, public notice in the newspaper. Note that the operation is compliant with the local zoning, building, and fire regulations. And when it's a new license, the applicants are required to solicit signatures in support or opposition, depending upon what people say when they sign the petition, of the granting of this license. Keeping in mind that the businesses that do this many times are not open to the public, and so there is no signature requirement, no minimum number required. But the last bullet lets you know that that petition was circulated. It contains the signatures of 9 business owners and residents in Woodland Park in support of the granting of this license. We've had no comments from anyone concerning opposition to the granting of this license. Staff's recommendation is that following public hearing, you approve this application contingent upon the certificate of occupancy being issued. As I mentioned, they're in the final stages of their internal remodeling. Okay. Questions?
Let's see if the applicant have anything you'd like to say to us?
Well, sure.
Come on up.
Yeah.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Don Hagan, and I'm at 200 East Bowman here in Woodland Park. Okay. Actually, we are an American Grill. We're not a bar. We are a restaurant. You know, you might want to know that some of the things that we're serving in an American Grill is an authentic German brat. You know, some Polish sausages, sliders, something called duck fat fries, bacon dust fries. It takes me 2 days to make my French fries. So, and I'm not lazy. We peel our fries, our potatoes. So we have something called bacon dust, and it's like almost like a cotton candy. If you put cotton candy on your tongue, it melts and it's sweet. If you put this powder on your tongue, it leaves a bacon flavor. It melts like cotton candy. And this goes on our fries that we have brined overnight, you know. So this is going to be kind of exquisite. It's not going to be overpriced and expensive. And we're also looking forward to serving the community, too. You know, there's a couple of the things that we were going to do. One of the things that we're going to do is actually on Thanksgiving Day, we're going to be open for people. And we're going to serve a free Thanksgiving dinner for those who maybe their relatives have gone out of town, that kind of thing. So we're looking to work with the community, do some of those things. Hi, Kip. So, but I wanted to thank you for your consideration. And I've lived here for 2 years now and have been really proud of being here in Woodland Park. It's a great community. We love it. So,
thank you. Any questions for the applicant or for Cindy about this application?
Yes, question. What's your experience in running like restaurants or grills in the past?
back in the late 70s and early 80s, I ran Pizza Huts in the Denver metro area. I was a manager and a district manager. You know, I went around troubleshooting the stores for a while. After that, I became a cop, you know, and decided I wanted to get back in the restaurant business. You know, but that's been my experience in running. I have not owned a restaurant before, but I've had plenty of experience at it. I also ran a Burger King at one point.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I'll open the floor for public comment. Anyone here that would wish to make any comment relative to this application? Hearing none, I'll close the floor for public comment. Council, anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm not much into the beer and wine stuff, but I mean, anything that serves grease is right up my alley. You know, so it sounds great. It really does, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
To open up a small business in any community at any time during this economy is it takes some courage. So I do wish you the absolute best.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Then I'll entertain a motion.
You got one.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
Approved.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Cindy?
Thank you. Harvey,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Turley,
Yes.
Rovetto,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it.
You're going to enjoy it. We'll bring you samples, okay? We'll bring you samples when we get
That's on the
over.
record.
What's your projected opening date?
We want to be open by the 24th of this month. Is that going to happen? You know, I don't know. I mean, first we had a setback where there was a big hole in the ground that we had to fill up with concrete. Then the fire, and then 3 weeks ago I just had 5 arteries bypass surgery. You know? So it's been one of those things where, you know, but you know, what can you say? We're still here. We're still fighting. We're going to open.
Outstanding.
We're going to do it.
Welcome.
Good.
Okay. And moving on to the second public hearing is an ordinance to establish a suburban residential zoning district requested by Gilliam Thunderhead, LLC, located 1100 Rampart Range Road. And for that, Sally.
Thank you. This is ordinance 1166 to zone the Gillums property. And this is the last step in the annexation and zoning of this 3.7 acre site. So you are very familiar with the slides and the process, and tonight's public hearing then is expected to take place and finalize this 8-step process for you. You're familiar with the site and the zoning around this property. To the north and to the west is zoned urban residential, and then to the south is the multifamily townhome project, Westwood Trace, and to the east is suburban residential property that is currently being used by the churches. And the aerial here shows you the hole in the donut that you recently approved, the annexation ordinance and agreement. This is consistent with our comprehensive plan map, as well as the comprehensive plan to be able to fill holes in the donut and to have jurisdiction over the future development of these properties within the city in order to have a quality development. The proposal is that the Gillums will utilize the property for a single-family dwelling initially. Potentially, they could subdivide the property into maximum of 3 lots. The city does have the ability to serve that density with utilities as well as other infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, and public services for protection, safety, and it is an appropriate zone for this site. With that, we recommend that you approve Ordinance 1166 after holding the public hearing, and the Gillums are here this evening should you have any questions of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
And would you like to make any comments to council? Okay. And I thought I recognized you back there. Any questions from council for Sally?
Well, we're for the folks, the historical buildings that are on, are they designated historical, or?
They do not carry a designation. However, the Gillums intend to preserve the main cabin originally, and maybe in the future we can do a survey, and they might be interested in landmarking.
Would they be willing to work with the Historical Preservation Committee on helping them in that effort? Because there may be funding available, by the way, to help you with that if it qualifies.
We have a barn on the property that's probably built in 1886, and we're trying to preserve that. We've got some rot on the bottom. We're gonna try to repair that. We got some bear holes, some bears are broken in there. We're gonna try to repair that. And a roof on one side, we're gonna try to repair that.
Just, can I just go ahead and get you to state your name and address,
is-
just so it'll be on the record so we can have it in the minutes?
My name is Doug Gillum, and I live in Florida, 4551 Northwest 35th Road, Gainesville, Florida. And we're doing step by step. Last year, we put roofs on the building. This year, we're trying to remodel inside. Next year, we're gonna work on the ice house and the barn, trying to get that up to speed as the money comes in and stuff like that. But it's,
If you work with Sally and some of the folks on the historical committee, we might be able to help you out with some of that. I don't know. Be good, because that's our function, I guess. Preserve, historical buildings in the
Right.
community. And I said, I've been to one of the meetings down in Pueblo, and that's how I said that there's funding available to residents who have buildings that, if they are deemed qualified historical, you can get grants to repair all that stuff.
we talked with them early on. They said there's very little money available, and that most of the money was tied up in Divide, and I think there's some other projects they were working on at that time, and
We may have some pull, who knows?
I'd be interested to hear that.
Good.
You guys should get together. Yes, Terry, I believe that means,
Yeah.
okay?
And Doug, this absolutely has nothing to do with your application, but what was the Thunderhead before
Before,
1992?
well, it had several owners there. Mike Matai owned it before then.
Was it a bar?
It was a bar.
Okay, thanks. I can't picture.
Any other questions from council?
For staff, but not for the applicant.
Okay, where's that?
I had a question, Sally, about the fact that we don't have specific criteria for rezoning requests. How did you come up with this criteria? What was the most recent rezoning application that we had?
The most recent rezoning application was from applicant Mr. Smith, who rezoned the mobile home park to multifamily urban. The criteria is really grounded in the state statutes, and it says for communities to look to your comprehensive plan to determine if it is compatible with that plan and your development growth pattern in your community.
Thank you.
Yes, Bob?
Yeah. And the reason we've selected this one was basically based on water tap fees, and we're running short on them, so you had an arrangement with the owner that you would only have 3 units on there instead of the density you have right next door in the wilderness. So we're already being influenced by tap fees too, as one of the factors on determining rezoning.
Okay, anybody else? Eric?
I think I'd just make a comment for the record. I don't believe we're running short on any taps. I think we have plenty of taps. So I didn't want that to necessarily go on the record. So Kip, you'll agree with that, I presume?
I'll agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do have taps.
so.
We would in fact like to sell more taps.
So we could double the number of houses that can go in there then.
It's the capacity to be able to serve in the long term at the build-out.
And there's many aspects as to the benefits of that, and makes our enterprise for water much healthier, and helps make us a better community, hopefully. Terry?
Sally, and the mayor mentioned, or Kip, the mayor mentioned water. Now, they'll be able to stay on the existing well for their own home, but once it's divided up, those homes will have to be attached to city water. Is that correct?
That's correct. At that time, when they go off that well, the water rights will be deeded over to the city.
The water rights to the well will be deeded over to the city, and that's if Doug decides to tie on to city water?
They tie into city water at the time they go off their well. At that time, they deed over the water rights to that well.
But at this point, right now, he can remain on the well. Is that true?
Yes.
And if he does subdivide it into 3 lots and keeps ownership of the one lot, then that one particular lot where the Thunderhead exists now can continue to use that well. Is that correct?
No, once they subdivide that property, they go on city water, all 3 lots.
Okay, and that's a domestic well. That's not an agricultural well, is it?
Yeah, it's a domestic well, no outdoor use.
I thought my understanding was that that well would, for that lot, would stay there on that lot. And the other 2 would maybe go on taps, but that well for that lot stays on that lot.
I think the way, and Sally, correct me if I'm wrong, the way it was written, when you guys submit to subdivide that and develop it, at that time, all 3 lots go on city water.
That's not my understanding.
My feeling is just knowing annexation and going through this in other places, it's very standard in other communities, and I would hope that we're doing the same thing I thought we were in Woodland Park as I read the annexation agreement. And really, I think we're providing the applicant a period of time before they if they don't ever subdivide, they can stay on the well forever. If they subdivide, it's in fact, most places, they would not allow this period of time to happen. You would have to connect immediately, and you would have to give all of the water rights to the city, and that's just part of coming into the city. City of Colorado Springs does that. It's, like I said, it's very standard procedure. So I believe that's the way the annexation agreement was written, and that's what we approved.
Yes.
So at the time you subdivide, I would think, or that's the time that you're going to have to connect to city water.
For all 3 lots, you mean?
Correct. That's what was approved in annexation.
So
if you need some time to consider this, we'll table it. We don't need to cause you to make a decision tonight. What has been stated is absolutely the practice in the past. If there was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, allow us the time to work with you to help you understand that so you can make the decision on whether you want to pursue this. But I don't want you to feel like we're pushing you into a corner. But what I can tell you is what has been presented tonight and what you've had before you in the past is absolutely what we've done in the past and what almost all municipalities that I'm aware of do. But if you'd like for us to table this, we can certainly do that and bring it back to the council at a later date.
And this is just for the zoning. I mean, the annexation, and that was a part of the annexation, as I understand, that is already a done deal. That's already been approved and passed.
Yes.
And that was a part of that.
However, the annexation agreement can be amended, and if the Gillums would like to raise those issues again, we can look at that.
It's my understanding that that lot there would be synonymous with that well, and then the other lots, if we've got taps, they would buy taps and pay the $2,000 fee. But I thought that lot was like, could they always have the well and not have to have a tap? I mean, I don't want to lose the well.
Well, and I would say at this point then, I need you to withdraw, ask us to table this until you get a better understanding, and then we can bring it back to council. You can work with Sally and Kip on the staff and make sure that you totally understand what's happening, and so we can table this.
Okay.
If that's what you desire.
Just a question, though. The annexation's already been approved. The annexation agreement's already been approved. So what we do tonight, as far as the zoning goes, will not change where we are. So I don't necessarily see the reason for tabling. I would suggest you move forward with the rezoning. If you have an issue with the annexation agreement, you can talk with staff. If you guys want to come back and try to amend that annexation agreement through council, then I guess you have that ability. But I wouldn't slow this down necessarily. I mean, unless the city attorney has.
I would agree. I mean, the remedy, if there can't be terms reached on this standard practice for acquiring water rights on property that's annexed and hooking up at subdivision, which again is standard procedure, the remedy would be de-annexation. So.
Right. The remedy would be what?
It would be to de-annex the property.
Okay.
Yes, Bob.
But the other possibility, since we do have plenty of water available, per previous discussion, that if it's a financial economic problem, and instead of having 3 lots, you have 4, and then that fourth lot would pay for the additional tap fees or whatever. So I don't know if that comes into it or not.
We'd be willing to pay the tap fee on the 2 lots, no problem, but the well's own, I mean, we're solid on that. We want to keep the well on that lot.
So I don't think we need to resolve that. That's already been passed in what we've already done. Let's let him work that with staff, and together they can come up with how they want to move forward and what options there might be based upon what's already occurred.
Okay.
Sound good?
You know, although I think given the kind of the disconnect on the annexation, I think my recommendation would be to table this.
Okay.
Because I don't think we want to give the impression that there is a land use right entitlement with that property until this issue is resolved. So they really shouldn't be given this land use entitlement right until that issue is resolved.
And then if it's not resolved, it would just, I think, 90 days, it becomes ag, which is a holding zone, or it's already currently ag as a holding zone, right? And it would just stay that way until such time that somebody wanted to either subdivide it or do something different, and then they would bring an application forward at that point in time.
Well, I mean, the zoning is in process, so yeah, it's pending zoning under this process. So I don't know that it's the use is the use that's there currently, which would be ag, the holding zone.
Right, I mean, but by law,
Well,
if we don't rezone the property by law, it goes to ag.
Yes.
And it stays that way until such time that they bring another application forward to either rezone it or to do something different, but yes, and they can still use it, obviously, because single-family residential is allowed in an ag zone.
Correct.
Okay, so to table, do we need a motion, or how do we do that, Cindy?
Yes, sir.
Are we tabling or withdrawing?
A second.
We make a motion?
The attorney recommended table.
Yeah, I would recommend tabling.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Date certain.
Make a motion to
To a
table?
date certain.
Second.
Discussion?
My intent is to make sure that the applicant is fully aware of the implications of all the decisions. I don't have any idea what his schedule is, and so I don't want to do it to a date certain if we don't have to.
We have to.
And then I'd like to do it no later than and make it a couple of months from now if we have
And
to.
it can be tabled again.
Okay. I just want to make sure that he has time to understand everything.
So we need a date in the tabling?
So do we have a recommended date?
September. Or just 2 months?
Well, we need,
Let's see what, I'd like to hear from counsel on, our legal counsel on what we need to do with this, how we need to do with the date.
Yep. When we table things, we need to table them to a date certain. That allows the notice that was given to still be effective, so the city doesn't have to renotice it. And so, and for other reasons under the annexation statutes, it's important to have this be a pending procedure. So we really do need to have it based on the original notice that was given and a continuation of that process that's already initiated. So we need a date certain, and we can recommend one if council would
so
like.
October 4th or 18th?
Okay.
I revised my motion to table this to October 14th.
4th.
Of 2012.
We're leaving back for Florida at the end of September. We'll be here the 30th of September, and then we're going back to Florida.
Oh, well, let's do it the second meeting in September.
That would be the 19th of September?
Revise my motion.
That work better?
That'll work better.
Okay.
Revise my motion to table 20th. Item to September
20th?
20th.
20th.
That'll be fine.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yeah, you got a second from Bob.
Okay, discussion?
Well, and that was my question, and since it started going on, I've been asking, because I knew there was a well on there, and I didn't know where it was going to be kept, and I'm sorry for not asking the question the same way I did tonight. But Aaron, when this does come back to us, because we have tabling, these folks have the ability to amend. Can we amend an annexation agreement? Can we amend that, or are they going to have to start over? Because the only thing that we can table is this last process. The other process has gone through.
Right. Council can always assuming that staff and the applicant can negotiate terms and they are mutually agreeable, council can always then consider those terms and an amendment of that annexation agreement.
So we have that ability. So now will that be coming back to us? Can that set aside and this come back to us in September? And that they have the ability to get that done at any time throughout the year?
No, that really needs to be done prior to this zoning being finalized.
So there's some work that's got to be done.
Well, it appears we have no criteria for a rezoning request, so it could certainly become part of the rezoning request.
Yeah, let me make a clarification. Our code does not contain city criteria. So we then default to the statewide criteria, the criteria that's grounded in state law, which is the basis for the four criteria that are in this staff report and that are in every staff report. They are consistency with comp plan, change in the neighborhood, the circumstances in the neighborhood, and whether or not it can be served with utilities. So those are really what state law requires, and those criteria consistently in our staff analyses are those state law criteria.
In that fourth criteria that you just mentioned, can we address the specific requirement of the applicant to maintain the well for at least one dwelling?
Well, that's really an issue for the annexation agreement. How
annexation versus zoning.
How the city, typically, as Councilman Smith points out, one of the things that is given up at annexation, the quid pro quo, if you will, are the water rights and the ownership in water. Now, could that be conveyed to the city? Could the Gilliams convey their water rights with permission to continue using the well for some period of time? Yes, but the water right interest needs to be conveyed to the city.
Okay.
And typically then the question that remains is, can the Gilliams have some permission to use that well for some period of time? The city's approach has always been, well, yes, up until the point you subdivide. Then you really need to get on to city water because, cities plan their utility systems based on rates and fees being paid by all users. So that is the reason for getting off of that well and making, that an equitable situation for the owners of that property in the city, equitable with every other owner and ratepayer in the city.
Would you allow us as a staff to continue working with the applicant to make sure, and then allow us to work with the city attorney to bring this back to you with the different options? Not
only allow, but that would be my preference, is that you work with them and come to a complete understanding on the issue and an agreement of how we can move forward with, as advice from legal counsel that might be required for us to be able to do that. Yes, Eric.
Question for the attorney, and then I have a comment maybe. So technically there's nothing here before us, so I would assume that'd be quasi-judicial, the discussion on the annexation agreement, or is that legislative?
That's administrative legislative.
Administrative, thank you. Well, then I can make my comment. I'll just say this. I would have an extremely difficult time, just to let everybody know where I sit, on allowing this to go forward. I have no issue with the use as it sits today and utilizing the well, and it can sit there for the next 70 years, and if it's the way it is, it's the way it is. But once development occurs, whether it's redevelopment, subdivision, or commercial, whatever, who knows? At that point in time, I feel very strongly that the entire property has to go over to city utilities, including water. The fees need to be paid, and the water rights need to be owned by the city. That is part of the process of annexing into the city. That is what you give up. The opportunity you have is now you have the opportunity for very good water supply that you might not have with your well. There's a lot of contaminants in our, there are some contamination elements in our water up here because of radium. I know firsthand as it relates to wells. The state does not regulate that on a well like this, but they do on community wells. In fact, Woodland Park blends water so that we get below the standards as it relates to radium. And so the benefit of coming in is you're going to have a good, stable source of water, and that costs money, and the citizens pay for that infrastructure. So I would, unless there's some compelling argument, and maybe there is, and I'll be open to listening to it, but I would not have approved the annexation had that been part of the annexation agreement. So, you know, to me, it's kind of like backing up and negotiating the annexation agreement again without saying, you know what, let's go back even another step. And do we even want to annex this? You know, so to me, it's kind of like we're doing it backwards and trying to resurrect it. So that's what I wanted to say, so that it's very clear as the staff moves forward, and when this comes back, if we're rediscussing the or looking at the annexation agreement again, I'm going to be very hard pressed to support it, and you'll hear a lot of the same discussions from me then.
You know, I would agree with Eric as well. I think it's unfortunate that we didn't collectively make that point known. It's kind of hard to close the barn door now, but
Actually, I think if you go back and look at the record of the annexation, and I believe for the applicant also, I believe when you review it that this is exactly what was done, and it was clear at the time, at least in my mind, that this was the way it was. It's just like on every annexation that we do. So what we're hearing now is something that's beyond that, in my opinion, and so that's the reason, since the applicant seems to not understand that, I'm perfectly happy for the applicant and staff to get together, go through it, come to an understanding, and come up with a recommendation on a way to move forward.
And that's what I'd like for you to allow us to do.
Yeah.
So if we could move forward, we have a direction.
Okay.
I have one more comment.
Okay.
According to the annexation agreement, we're not guaranteed any tap fees at all. No taps. Water taps. So the annexation agreement is not guaranteeing us water at all.
And that's again, the standard practice. But give us a chance to work with you. We'll review everything. If there was a miscommunication, we'll fix that.
Yep.
If there was a misunderstanding, we'll do our best to fix that. But we need to back up with you to bring you up so that everyone understands. Clearly, clearly there was a misunderstanding somehow. I don't know what happened, but we need to get there and then bring it back to the council.
Okay. So we have a motion to council. So we have a motion to table ordinance number 1166 to the September the 20th council meeting, and in the interim, the staff will work with this. We'll work with the applicant and try to come to a resolution of understanding and a way to move forward. So we'll have a vote.
Thank you. Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Turley?
Yes.
Bravetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Move on to item 9C. Consider ordinance 1167, amending ordinance number 605, series 1994, also known as the City of Woodland Park Tax Administration Code, to change the taxable status of meals sold at private and public K through 12 school systems. And for that, we'll turn to Kelly.
Mayor, before Kelly starts, just a comment that typically when we have large changes in proposals to you, we do a red line. You'll recall that we really did a lot of the redlining work at the last council meeting, and so this was such a short document, it didn't make sense to us to waste a whole lot of paper doing red lines when the changes were easily recognizable and discussed at the last meeting. Kelly, please.
Thank you, David. Council, Mayor, it's my pleasure to bring this ordinance back to you on its second reading and public hearing. As David said, you recall at the last meeting we made a change in the final sentence in the paragraph of the code to eliminate all of the educational institutions that were listed in that being exempt from tax on meal service, to really just identify private or public K through 12 school systems to staff, faculty, and pupils. or others are exempt from Woodland Park sales tax. So we have really limited that to a specific group of educational institutions, and I believe that was the direction from the council. And so after the public hearing, we would recommend approval of Ordinance 1167.
Any questions from council for Kelly? Hearing none?
Aaron?
Yes.
I just want to make clear, so that we have it at least clear in the record, that the intent then was to make sure that it is clear that in Woodland Park, under our tax code, colleges, universities, and other institutions, meals sold at those would be taxable.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just think we need to have that clear in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron.
And that's correct from our previous discussion. So if there's no questions for Kelly at this point, then I'll open the floor to for any public comment. Anyone? Hearing none, I'll close the floor for public comment and see if council has any questions at this point. Yes, Aaron.
I'd just like to say thanks to the staff for, I think it is very clear, and hopefully I think it's good that we're moving us forward, because I know that we did have a little bit of different treatment, not caused by anybody particular, it just happened as it related to CSCS and the RE2 school district, and so this obviously clarifies that, and I know that the parents that send their children to CSCS and buy lunches there will be happy that they're not paying sales tax as they have in the past. So I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1167.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from council? Hearing none, we'll take a vote, Cindy.
Thank you. Smith?
Yes.
Turley?
Yes.
Barbato?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
And we'll move on to item 9D. Consider ordinance 1168, granting a conditional use permit for Prayer Mountain Ministry and Creation Sciences Academy. And I won't read the whole item because Scott will be going through that. And for this item, we do turn to Scott Wolford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is a conditional use permit for Prayer Mountain Ministry to conduct church services, as well as the Creation Science Academy to conduct classes on the same site for children, for approximately 15 school-age children, although that's not they can have more than that, but that's their initial proposal of 3rd through 12th grade students. The reason we're reviewing this at a public hearing is because of churches and synagogues and other places of worship, as well as private and parochial elementary and secondary schools are all conditional uses in the central business district. So that requires council approval. The proposal is, like I said, essentially operate a small parochial school, initially at least 15 students from between ages 8 and 17 years old during the week. And then on top, the school will use 2 classrooms on the bottom floor, which is accessed directly from the parking lot, as well as for the Prayer Mountain to be able to conduct church services in the evenings and on the weekends for between 75 and 100 people. And again, those numbers aren't restrictive; they're just the applicant's best estimate at this point. Office space for both the church and the school will be provided inside the building. At this point, there's no interior or exterior improvements proposed of the building. And then in terms of parking spaces, there's 15 spaces on site, as well as some off-street parking spaces that they could take advantage of. Here's some pictures of the north elevation, and here you can see the 6 on-street spaces off of Henrietta. And then on the south is the larger parking lot, and then the access to the classrooms down below, and then there's a handicapped entrance up here. Site plan's not very readable. I apologize for that. It's the best one we had. Here's Henrietta. Here's Park Street. Here's the building with the access off of Henrietta into the parking area. There's also access through here into an alley and then through to an alley that goes this way. So all the parking spaces are in this area. And again, there's no changes to the footprint of the building. This shows the site in the context of the area with the aerial photography. There's I believe this is a lodge use apartment, the community cupboard, and some commercial uses. There's a bookstore here. There's the beauty salon. This is Help the Needy. And I think there's a retail shop right there, and then the park obviously across the street. So this site is fairly compatible with the existing uses in our review. And these are just some photos of those existing structures surrounding the building. Conditional uses, you've heard this before, but I'll just review it. They're contingent uses. They're not allowed by right. They may be appropriate depending upon the nature of the use and the relationship to its surroundings, must comply with the specific 11 standards, and must provide adequate mitigation measures to lessen all identified impacts. These are the 11 criteria. I won't go into detail. I think we did a pretty good job of analyzing that in the staff report. If you have any questions on how our analysis on how this meets those standards, I'd be happy to address that in a question session. In summary, in terms of potential impacts that this use could create on neighboring properties, we've summarized it into, aesthetics. I think everybody would agree that this building is an attractive building and fits in well into the downtown environment. They're not changing that, so that's a good sign or good news. The lighting, they have fully shielded lights. What traffic impact will this create? They did a trip generation report which compared the new use with the church or the school versus the what it was prior to this as Charitable Treasures, which is considered to be a specialty retail use. And comparing the uses, the school is actually quite a bit less in traffic impact than that business generated. And the fact that the church would be operating mostly on the weekends and at night is they're able to share parking and utilize parking that is not in use by other retail at that time or restaurant. Noise, all the activity occurs inside the building, so we don't think there's going to be noise activity or noise impacts. And like I said, the parking, there is plenty of parking to meet the need. So with that, staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit in this ordinance 1168. There is one condition of approval, and that's that they install a backflow prevention device, which is a standard condition on any CUP or remodel of a commercial building in the downtown, or actually in the city. And my understanding is that they've already taken the steps to make that happen. So with that, that's all I have in my presentation. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions for Scott? Yes, sir.
I actually have a question for the city attorney, and I'm probably wrong here, but I thought that when it came to religious type institutions, that they were permitted use in any zoning district, and that we could not, that's not true? Okay, because I know we ran into that before where we actually turned something down, and then because they were religious, so.
Yeah, and that's not what's at issue here, but, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Bob.
Before Charitable Treasures, this in fact was a church. Was it a permitted use at the time?
No.
It was conditional use.
Okay, because if it was a church before and it was permitted and then it became a store and became conditional use, and we're going back to it being a church again, wouldn't it be better just to make it a permitted use like it was? So that was why I was asking the question. But
if it's not been in that use for, is it 1 year or 2 years?
2 years.
1 year. If it's gone out of business, so to speak, for over a year,
Okay.
then they need to reapply.
Okay, so if any of these conditions change, then they would have to come back. In other words, if right now they have 15 students and all of a sudden they have 30, well, that may impact the traffic and all that. Would they have to come back for that?
I believe if it's substantially increased, I don't. We're not holding them to those numbers, but if it substantially went beyond that, maybe we'd have a conversation. But that's not our intent. If they go beyond that, they're probably going to outgrow their space, and they probably will need a new space.
Right.
So that's not our intention to go back and require an additional trip generation if we see that they have 30 students instead of 15.
And maybe just as a comment on Bob's question, it was a church, but now it's actually an additional use by it being a school.
That's correct.
Also, so that's
Most churches are schools.
well, they may. Well, I don't want to get into a big discussion on it, but this is more of an educational facility on a more full-time basis than, for example, Sunday school or something like that. So,
Okay.
Yes, Terry.
And when that came up, when I asked Sally about that, I got to thinking about that. When that building was built as a church, I don't think we had a city charter.
Right.
Hey, Scott, on the other side of the street, Henrietta, running up and down Henrietta next to the park, I think we got, 15, 18 parking spots going from, is that true? I mean, so they're going to have ample space to park. And my other question is, where it shows the 25-foot alley on the site plan, and ours is a lot better than yours. I remember trees being in there. Are those trees in that 25-foot area, or are those trees set into the outside of the on the 25-foot line away from the building? I just remember it gets real tight turning into that area.
Are you talking about on the west side of the building?
Yeah.
I believe there's just one tree in the alley.
Is there just one? No? Okay. Is that ours or theirs?
Well, it's in the alley, so it's our tree, I guess.
So if push came to, I mean, we could, if we had to, we could mitigate that out of there. Okay.
And then one question for me, Scott. Is there any issue, and just to get it on the record, relative to establishments that sell liquor being within a certain distance of the church?
Or the school.
Or the school. Schools really want it, yeah.
Yes.
And where do we sit on that?
Yes. Cindy, do you want to address that?
Yes. The city's code prohibits the service of alcohol within 500 feet of a school use. And we, actually, Sally, measured with a wheel to make sure that the nearest establishment, which we just licensed, is greater than 500 feet away from this proposed use, and it is.
Okay.
And is that measured from the property line, or is that measured from the building?
It is measured by, the state statutes tells you how to measure it. It talks about the nearest portion where you can enter the building and the nearest corner of the property on which the proposed location for alcohol will be. So they tell you how to measure it. And I'll tell you, it's 509, right, Sally?
500.
Sure.
The Casey's, they are within the 500 feet, but we scheduled them to be on tonight's agenda prior to this. What I measured at 509 feet is a proposal for a new brewery that is across the highway. That is 509 feet away. So we checked on the Ute Pass Brewery, which is a proposal for a new establishment, that this will not affect. And did not affect the Casey's, because we knew that they were going to get on the agenda before this would go into effect.
So if, so what I'm hearing is the 500 feet actually encompasses the buildings that are on the north side of Highway 24. Obviously, south of Highway 24, right? So if Joni's, for instance, redevelops and they wanted to have a liquor license, or let's just say they decided they wanted to start selling beer, they would not be allowed to.
Let Cindy address that, because we've made contact with businesses.
We did. We called and told them, we've talked to the Fabers, a couple of times in the last 16 or so months about alcohol service, and they just have chosen not to. When we realized that this was coming forth, we contacted the folks that we knew were interested in applying for some sort of alcohol service license in that whole area.
So when the park, when we do something in the park, I know in the past we've had events there that have had alcohol on a temporary permit basis. Will that disallow us from having that?
No, it'll have to be located, we'll have to do the measurement, but it'll have to be located outside of 500 feet.
So how far would 500 feet be into the park? Because I'm just looking here, I mean, it looks like it's the whole park, basically.
Yeah, I've not measured, so.
Didn't measure those either. 150 feet is one side of this block.
So an event like wine and jazz,
right,
would that then be prohibited?
As a special event.
Even as a special
It was already
event.
approved as a special event earlier this year. And
what will happen?
I can't answer that question, Carol, without doing a measurement.
Well, but what about next year?
Next year, I'm
All
saying.
along Henrietta.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say yes or no until I measure it.
Sure.
So, what do we do on this one? Well, I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Because the proposed location for the aquatic center is at the north end of the Memorial Park, right along Lake Avenue. And one of the proposals in that, one of the scope is to have a full-service bar in there. And so by putting this, would that affect that intent?
And I guess that comes down to needing to measure, maybe.
You got to measure.
So for the accommodation of 15, how many students?
15, I think.
15
it was.
students, we would then forfeit the opportunity for retail revenue in that area.
The other option you have is to modify the distances in the liquor code, and you could adjust those.
But if you were doing that, that would be the code across the city.
Yeah, it would be, but we are home rule city, and you could fashion that with some particularity. You could, for instance, you could have it just for special events. You could have different distances for those. You may even be able to craft something more specific within the downtown core. So I think the council has a lot of ability to craft a tool that works for your policy interests, to protect the policy interests that the council feels are important.
So within the central business district, we could actually, at that point, if we want to, say there are no measurement requirements. I mean, if
Could do it that way.
and we would be able to do that, because to me, the last thing I want to do is limit what we can do in our downtown core in any way, shape, or form as it relates to retail and opportunities, because just because Joni's today, the owners don't want to do something, doesn't mean that, 10 years from now, the next owners don't want to do something. So I would be okay with moving forward if I knew that we're going to come back with a revision to our code so that we could address this issue while it's in our minds here.
But another option is that we approve this conditionally and exclude the school designation.
Say that again?
Approve a CUP for a church, but not include the school.
Yeah.
for 15 students.
I think I'd actually prefer us to go ahead and approve this and then deal with the ordinance.
The intent of the ordinance is primary uses. It was the primary use as a school, primary use as a bar, if you will, a restaurant or a retail establishment. I don't think that the code contemplated special events, things that would happen in parks, those types of things, nor we thought we took adequate steps to address what might happen in the future. But we need to look at how we could craft a change to the ordinance that would allow special events to occur, and then also a process that might allow some future use. As we looked at this school and this process, we believe this school might grow over time and therefore would have to relocate to another location or whatever. So we didn't carry it out for another 10 or 15 years. We carried it out what we thought was a reasonable amount of time. But I agree with the mayor. I think we could move forward with this and allow us to work on that ordinance process. The events that are happening that have retail alcohol sales have already been approved. Oktoberfest has been approved. All those things that might be within that area are okay for this next iteration. It's the following iteration that we need to work on.
Well, my question is, how long is it going to take you to revisit the ordinance?
You know, we brought back to you the change in the gun ordinance relatively quickly, and I think this one isn't going to be that difficult.
Because I'd hate to see this approved and then somehow, in some way, that get lost in the shuffle. If this is approved, we cannot, after this point in time, have liquor or alcohol in that park. The way I understand it.
We're motivated to have those special events. They're good for the town. They're good for the community. So therefore, that'll motivate us to get the process done.
I don't know if I trust that too much.
Well, I really appreciate that comment.
No, I'm not saying trust you. I have a problem deciding on approving something that limits us from doing anything, like permitting people to run events in there. I understand you have a way of changing an ordinance. I understand that. But for me, we're approving something that limits us from doing something in the future right now. I would rather have the ordinance passed first, then approve something like this, and that's fine with me.
But I trust Dave that he's going to take this as a matter of urgent action, and hopefully we'll see it
I'm a Murphy's
sometime
advocate,
in September, October.
If something can go wrong, it will. And so I'm a little reluctant in approving something that's going to limit us from doing anything in the future without having some sort of guarantee that, the new ordinance is going to be, it's like putting a cart before the horse, essentially.
Sure, it is.
And not that I don't trust you, it's just like putting the cart, I don't like doing that, essentially.
Let me suggest that, Scott, do we have the applicant here or a representative of the applicant that might want to do any kind of a presentation or say a few words to us relative to the whole ordinance, actually?
Galen Beaver is the applicant on the application, but he couldn't be here tonight. So, is anybody else willing to stand up and talk on his behalf?
Thank you. Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm Richard Smith. I'm the owner of the building. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I don't see how we can help you at this point, except to maybe say that Saturdays the school will not be operating, and after hours, evenings we would not be operating. They would not. They're tenants of mine, and so they will be having to decide if they are going to even grow. We have a limitation of space, so that's, you mentioned something about space. I think 15 is going to be the maximum, looks like.
So I just want, not just for the item relative that we've been discussing relative to the, liquor issue, but I just want to make sure that the applicant had an opportunity to do a presentation on anything relative to the ordinance. So
I
it
agree
wasn't
with
just
that.
for that.
I agree with that, but I have another question for staff. What is the purpose in the school designation or an academic institution designation for 15 students? Is that necessary?
Yeah, it's a school. They're operating as a school, so it's a use in the code, and it's a conditional use. So that's why we have to recognize it. It's-
Okay.
It's another principal use of the property. There's essentially two principal uses here.
So the church alone could not cover that use of instruction?
I think they're two different entities, I believe.
Are they?
Are they not?
Yeah, two.
Okay, so one's upstairs, one's downstairs.
I
Okay.
want to have the public hearing first.
Okay.
At this time, I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for public comment. See if anyone here has any comment relative to this. Hearing none, I'll close that and I'll come back to Council Bob.
Yeah. If, for instance, in a week or two, or our next meeting or the following one, somebody else came in and said we wanted to have some event in the park and then we want to serve liquor, would we be able to, after approving this right now, be able to give a waiver to that 500-foot requirement?
I can't see how we could do that.
Oh, you can't grant waivers? Okay.
So-
You have to change.
So my question to the city attorney is, and I know you are, but I just, for clarification, you're certain that we have the power to go in and reopen this as far as the liquor laws are concerned and address this if we want to as it relates to, the central business district in this case. And the one comment I'd make to the council to consider as we decide how we're going to vote is that, there's all kinds of things that you never understand what domino might trip the next one and the unintended consequences. I mean, we approved this as I think I was on Planning Commission when this came through as a conditional use for a church. And, we just went on about our business, and if Dave would have never said anything, we probably would have gone on with our business and never thought about it. So I think, if nothing else, this is good. Now we understand that there's an issue that we need to deal with, and I have all the confidence in the world that staff will bring something back and we can move forward. And so I don't personally want to see us hold this up. I know staff will bring us something and we'll be able to address it and probably not even miss a beat.
Any other comment from, yes, Terry?
Well, Sally, did I misunderstand you? The liquor license that we approved this evening is within the 500 feet, or is that the one that's 509 feet? It's within the 500 feet. So, Aaron, are we going to be violating our own charter?
No, because this is not a school. On the day that you approved the liquor license, this is not a school. So you are not violating your
So
code.
all of those businesses in there, if they were all liquor stores, they would all be grandfathered in now.
Yeah, correct. Exactly right.
So
it's
the church is the school, is making the decision to
For future decisions.
come in and move in there. And so it's the church that has to deal with the 500. They have to accept what's there. We just can't approve another one
Correct.
within the 500-foot line.
Unless you change your code, which you have complete authority to do.
And it's the school, not the church.
The school.
School.
I'm okay with that.
Any other discussion?
I had another question about the operation of the school. Is that year-round, and I'm concerned about events like the farmers market. The staff's recommendation is that for parking, there's sufficient parking because primary use of the building is on the weekends and on weeknights. Will that same thing apply then when you have a special event? Will there be a conflict?
Did you have that conversation? Did you guys have that conversation? No. You want to address it?
Please state your name for the record and address, please.
Tracy Irvin, 57 Aspen Circle Divide. I can address that I'm the director of the school. We are going to a 4-day school week where we have Fridays off, and the kids will be involved in the farmers market. The other thing is that we have private parking on our property, and the kids probably will not be driving to school. They're middle schoolers, so yeah. So I don't have any high schoolers this year, and actually, just to answer the 15 kids was going to be the absolute maximum that we could have. We could fit into those 2 classrooms, and at this point, I have 7. So I'm shooting for 10, but 15 was a real dream. So, any other questions that I can answer?
No, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments from council?
Will this school be accredited in any fashion?
We could not even start applying for the accreditation process until this is our third year. So I am going to be working on applying for that, and it will be accredited.
Other questions?
So I just have somewhat of an objection. And don't misunderstand me, Mr. Buttery. I am not suggesting I don't trust your staff. It's mainly on a procedural issue that I have a problem with. And it's putting the cart before the horse. Okay? That's the only issue I have with that. I have no objection about the school. I think it's great having the school there. But thank goodness Eric brought this up, because I would have never even thought about this, but he brought it up.
I thought of it too. It's been bugging me for a week.
And just to make a comment, it's not whether you have an issue with staff. It's council that's going to consider this and vote on it with the support of staff and answering our questions. So it's not staff that's deciding.
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
No, but you're addressing to David, and I just want to go.
No.
You can address that to the other council members, especially.
I just didn't want to be misunderstood.
Well, we got you.
Because I could be misunderstood in the past.
But I'm just, I'm going to protect staff a little bit.
Well, you don't have to protect them on that.
Well, no, you're just a little testy. But that being said, I believe that staff can bring this to us. This is council deliberations, and that we'll be able to deal with that. And I have faith that this is what will happen, and I believe we have some time to do that.
I understand that your position, Gary, I do, and I'm not taking it as an affront.
Please don't.
But what we're in the business of is kind of managing the different risks, and we need to allow them to move forward so they can begin the school year. And that's why we need to continue this going. This is very solvable and very doable, and there are times when we get the cart before the horse on many instances because it's the best thing we need to do for our clients.
Yes, Eric.
I have full faith that staff understands what the issues are and are motivated to bring something back to us that we can address some of the issues that we brought up tonight and get that done. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 1168 with the one condition.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, John.
I have a mundane question, but I want to ask it regardless. Are there any restrooms on the lower level? Yes. There are? All right. I didn't see it on your floor plan. Yeah. Thank you.
Other discussion? Then we will take a vote, Cindy.
Motion then is to approve the condition is contained within the body of the ordinance. Turley?
Yes.
Brevetto?
Conditioner, yes. Can I do that?
No. It's yes or no.
Nay.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
No.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-2.
Thanks to the representatives from the applicant that were here tonight, and thanks to council for the, I think, very good and thorough discussion on that. It's, it's actually a big issue, and I guess that's one of the reasons it got brought up to begin with. So we'll move on to item number 9E, request for city review for approval of 2-year extension of the Top of Paradise filing number 1 preliminary plat. And for that, we'll turn to Sally.
The Top of Paradise filing number 1 preliminary plat was approved back in 2005, and since that time, the first filing, final plat, was approved and was platted. But to give you a little history, the outline in red is about approximately the 200 acres that was set aside as the top of paradise and was master planned by Will Brown, the owner of this property. Currently, the owner is Park State Bank and Trust for the area that is outlined in green or shaded in green. This is the preliminary plat area that contained 28 lots, total lots, and the first filing is of half of that. So this is the master plan for the top of paradise, and outlined in red is the portion of the preliminary plat. It includes Thunder Ridge, Regal Way, and down to Majestic Parkway. Also within this portion of the preliminary plat is the city's water tank site, which was recently conveyed to the city. The infrastructure was put in for the first filing of this preliminary plat, and you recently had all the easements associated with that to tie in the high-pressure water system that was outside the final plat. This area in red is the final platted area. There are currently 3 homes that have been built in this area. The area outlined in blue is what you are keeping valid for future development and future final plats, with 29 lots remaining. We are recommending that you extend this preliminary plat, this area specifically in blue, for at least another 2 years. And we believe that that is reasonable at this time to request. Chuck Mahoney is here in the audience this evening. He is representing Park State Bank, if you have any questions of him. We recommend you move to extend for 2 years to August 2014.
Any questions at this point for Sally? Would the applicant like to make, Chuck, would you like to make any comments or anything? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Chuck Mahoney. I live at 674 Lucky Lady Drive. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for entertaining this. One of the things that the bank is not in the real estate business or the developing business, but what they are very conscious of is the present economic climate that we all find ourselves in. And the other issue is preserving the integrity and the property values of the subdivision. There are present property owners, as those that actually have purchased lots and lived there. So what they'd like to do, given the projected absorption rates and everything of real estate, that's one reason we moved to extend this, to be able to give us some flexibility and hopefully get on the other side of this. And I've lived in Woodland since 1984. It's probably one of the nicest pieces of property on the Front Range itself. And it would be a great addition and benefit. And we've had some very positive reviews. People have looked at it. So the bank is aggressively marketing it rather than turning it over for a fire sale. That's why we make a move in this direction and throw ourselves on your mercy.
Any questions for Chuck? Hearing none, thanks, Chuck. And I'll open the floor for any public comment. Hearing none, I'll close public comment. Any questions, discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any additional discussion? Cindy.
Thank you. Motion is to approve the extension to the date contained in the staff report. Ravetto.
Yes.
Yes, did you say? Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Turley?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and moving down, no new business. Does anybody have any comments that they'd like to make, the public, on items not on the agenda? I did not have anyone signed up to speak, but I'd like to make the floor available. Hearing none, I'll do a short mayor's report. We have a lot of activities coming up in the community in the month of August and of course more in September. On Friday, August the 3rd, that's tomorrow evening, we have the Relay for Life. That's a walk for cancer. That's at the Colorado Springs Christian School out near the new post office. And that begins at 7 p.m. and runs to 7 a.m. And I'll be giving some kickoff remarks at that event myself. On Saturday and Sunday, August the 4th and 5th, we have Critter Fest at the Rocky Mountain Dinosaur Resource Center. 9 a.m. on Saturday it begins and 10 a.m. on Sunday. Also on Saturday and Sunday, we have the Mountain Arts Festival at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. That runs from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, we have the 5th Annual Vino and Notes at Memorial Park from 12 noon to 6 p.m. And that is a great time with some jazz, some good music, and a little bit of wine. Wednesday, August the 8th, next week. This is a really good event. If you've never, even if you're not a kid, this is worth going out. And this is the Touch a Truck event out at Medwood Sports Complex. So the city and others will have some equipment out there, and it's a great opportunity for kids to see some of these things and some adults that are kids. And that runs from 10 a.m. to noon, and it's free. A week from this Saturday, on August the 11th, we have the 23rd Annual Mayor's Cup Race, and that's all going to occur down by, around the Ute Pass Cultural Center. And maybe this year we should call it the Mayor Pro Tem's Cup Race. I had plans for that day and will be out of town and could not change those. And so our Eric Smith, our Mayor Pro Tem, will be filling in for that. And are you running in the race too?
I'm going to, so I'm excited, and I think my whole family is. My 10-year-old will beat me, guaranteed. And I would like to challenge any of the other council members or staff members that would like to come out. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with the blowhorn when I'm done. I guess I'll just throw it down somewhere and take off. So, but anyway, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's a great event. And also on Saturday, August 11th, we have the Woodland Music Series, Shades of Blues and Jazz at Midland Pavilion. And that's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and it's free. And we'd like to encourage everybody that's out there listening to us, and really everyone in the community, spend some time at these events and help our local business. I mean, you look at the things that are free, and I mean, we do have a wonderful community, and these are some great things to take advantage of, and stay up here in Woodland Park and help our local business. It's things have been pretty tough because of the fire, and so we'd really like to see you do that and appreciate your patronage here. And with that, I'll conclude the mayor's report and see if council members have anything. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, last meeting I gave a brief status report for the Woodland Aquatic Project. We have 5 design-build teams that want to make presentations as to their qualifications, and but we rescheduled that from tomorrow to the 17th, Friday the 17th of August, so we will be coming. Well, the results of that will provide input to the business plan. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. And I will say that we started back in May and got a little sidetracked with the fire and other things going on. Council working on its goals and objectives, and we've had a good work session on that, and we're looking to resume that process, and that'll help us in working the 2013 budget. And with that, and so we're moving forward on that, and now that things hopefully have settled down a little bit. Aaron, anything?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
David?
And speaking of budget, this evening I'm going to pass out to you our 2013 budget calendar. So I'll ask the mayor to slide those down. One of the, this is kind of the standard process that we've done. For the new council members, one of the things I'm going to want to do with you prior to the budget process is sit down with you one-on-one on one-on-two and just kind of walk through the budget. It's orchestration, it's organization, those kinds of things so that you're more familiar with it before we really dive into the 2013 process. So I'll be contacting you to find a time that's convenient for you to do that. You'll note the fourth line down is council work session if needed. 2 years ago, we had a special work session to look at revenue streams. We decided that we didn't need to do that last year. The veteran council members will recall. And we also, in the past, had special sessions on health care. We cracked that nut last year, and so we're not suggesting.
Can I just interrupt? Councilman Brevetto needs to depart right now, so I just want it to be on the record that Gary has departed.
Okay. Anyway, if there is a need as we begin this process, we can certainly have additional work sessions to work through the budget process, and it doesn't have to fit in that window of time that I've placed there. It can happen at any time in the process. So we look forward to working with you this year on the 2013 budget. Thank you. That's all the staff has this evening.
Very good. Any comments on written correspondence? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Aaron, I have a couple for you. Well, a couple I can save.
It's just because of the budget.